One of the things I think a lot of anglers have noticed over the past year is this year has been like extremely wet overall in many parts of the country. I mean, here in Southwest Missouri, it never did even dry out during the summertime. The ground was wet here around my yard all summer long, and it's been wet, rainy all winter here. All the lakes around Missouri here, Stockton, Table Rock, Beaver, Bull Shoals, all of them are high, and they're a lot more off-colored and a lot warmer than they normally are. Actually, I won't say warmer because the new trend, I mean, with climate change and everything, we have a new norm as far as what our water temperatures are. Right now at Table Rock Lake, we've got water temperatures in the upper 40s, and it's been in the upper 40s even in January, which I've never seen it that warm ever since I've been fishing. But one of the things that this thing's created here, like particularly this year, and for example, is you're dealing with a lot higher, dirtier water. And one of the questions I had from one of my subscribers this week is they wanted to know what's the best way to catch fish when the water temperature is in the 40s and it's not muddy, but it's not clear, but it's just sort of stained. And that's a really good question because we deal with that in so many of our lakes around here right now. Table Rock Lake's the prime example for that. And from what I've seen with that, what that does, it depends on the lake that you're fishing. If you have a lake like Table Rock where you have a lot of diversity in water clarity, it's really going to scatter the fish out. You're going to have a lot of fish that are using deep water. Some that are going to be using shallow water that normally wouldn't be because of the warm water and the more color into it. And you have a lot of fish scattered in the mid depths. And if you have bodies of water that are traditionally dirty all the time, I mean that's another set of circumstances. But normally what happens when you're faced with those conditions, that sort of that off-colored water when it's still below 50 degrees, the first thing you have to remember is the fish normally are going to be a little bit shallower than what they could normally be. The warm water, the colored water is going to give them a better environment up shallow. So I would suggest under those conditions, sort of like picture like it's a month later, like instead of being the first part of February, it's the first part of March. And a lot of the techniques that work the first part of March traditionally that don't work this time of year have been accelerated and can work. For example, a crankbait bite right now is going on in many lakes around the country, particularly here in Missouri, which we never usually have this early. Most of the time, your crawfish cranking, square bills, wide wobblers, even some of the tight wobblers. That's normally more of like a low to mid 50s type deal. So, but right now with those fish shallower, you're going to be able to capitalize on that shallow bite a little bit more. Another thing you want to look for is spend a lot of time graphing off of points because if you've got water clarity that's normally in the lake, like anywhere between that 3 to 5 foot range, which a lot of lakes in the country have that, even if the water is off colored a little bit, you're still going to have a lot of those fish, down into that 15, 20, 25 foot range. And a lot of times they tuck right down there on the bottom if it's a little bit more stained. Fish in the wintertime, if it's low light conditions, cloudy, windy, that type of stuff, they don't react like they do in warmer water. Clouds and wind and dirty water a lot of times will put those fish on the bottom and they won't be up roaming and suspending like they normally do in the wintertime. That's why one of the things I've experienced this year in the instructional jerkbait trips that I've done is those jerkbait fish are really scattered. They're normally, a lot of times they're grouped up in certain areas because you have larger schools of fish that are suspended into that traditional 5 to 15 foot zone. And right now with the water warmer and a little bit dirtier, you have them really scattered out and those wolf packs are a little bit smaller, so that window's a little bit smaller. But anyway, the advice I'd give you is when you're dealing with off-colored cold water, try moving shallower and try, fishing like it's a little bit later in the year. Take advantage of those conditions instead of fighting them. And that's the whole thing about fishing. It's all about adapting to the conditions. Something's always different. I mean, there's always a variable that's different in fishing. That's what makes it so exciting, and have that mystery and that adventure to it is what keeps us coming back. So Anyway, that's today's video. Hope everybody's doing good, and we'll check in later.